Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here in another of our APPI Learn by Doing training classes. Today we will be doing a focus on feedback, and I hope I don't become too obnoxious with this, but I really want you to get deep in your guts the fact that precognition begins with the feedback session. So precognition, the field we're in, is wonderfully mysterious, challenges many concepts of time, and what it indeed demonstrates is that the ability to gather information from the future begins with the future. So precognition begins with the feedback session, and we're going to be doing that today. Now here's the outline. Because we've had from earlier classes a result, we will be able to do a feedback session for this particular coordinate. The question associated with 370146 was, will the Standard & Poor 500 index be over 2,450 on March 17th, 2017? And it turned out the prediction was a pass, and we'll be talking about that. The actual outcome, and so, no matter what the prediction is in ARV, the outcome is always what determines the feedback, and in this case the outcome was a no, and we will do the feedback session with the associated PhotoSite target. And ARV is for associative remote viewing, and that association we'll discuss more as part of this class, but we'll also actually be doing it. Even if you didn't do a transcript, you can do the feedback and actually help people who do have that. All of that is possible with precognition. Now, okay, so that's the first part of what we'll be doing. And then in all of these classes, we always do a prediction which has an outcome of a month plus, so that we're actually doing a kind of an experiment here for times longer than has been done in the past with ARV, and we're doing a lot of them so we can get enough statistical data to make some statement about a month versus the shorter time stuff we do, which is usually like a week. And with that, we'll have one RV session, one judging session, analysis judging session, and then I'm hoping all of you will send me via email your transcripts, and then we can discuss them and learn from them. And then the feedback for this will come, about a month or so from now, and just like the one we're doing now. So that, of course, will have to wait. Okay, let's talk ARV. Hey, look at this, right? Precognition begins here with the feedback session. The remote viewing session comes earlier. You think of time going this way, and this is the judging session, all of which we'll be doing. But the information which you get at remote viewing time starts here. So precognition begins with the feedback session. The tasking, of course, in linear time is given to you first, and that task or cue is always describe and or sketch and then we use a 6-digit coordinate, but some people use letters, some people use the date, but some identifier that is associated with the feedback target. Nothing else matters. That's your task. That's your cue. That's what you're to do. If you do anything else, you didn't do your task as well as you could have, and you'll get better with time, and and stuff like that. But the task is to describe and sketch your feedback target associated with this coordinate. Simple as that. So what is your target? What is it you describe here? What is it that the people a month or so ago described and they're now going to see the feedback? Okay, it is the PhotoSite. We call it a PhotoSite because it's a photo, but the consciousness goes to where the photo was taken at the time the photo was taken, but your consciousness can pick up much more than what you can get from a photo. You get all the 3D aspects, you get the smells, you can get the tastes, you get the sounds, all the full use of all of your senses. And that's why we call it a PhotoSite. And then there's one particular one associated with your coordinate. Okay, so the target is the feedback PhotoSite. Now, let's do this for the target, which was set up earlier, much earlier, and here was an email in the protocol that we're using here, which is the We protocol, and we have many groups. If none of you are in a We group and you would like to, just let me know and we'll put you in. We have sports and financial groups. The emails are what starts everything off, and this email here said, will the Standard & Poor 500 index be over, and then it cut off the number, but it was a number I gave you before. And it turned out that that was the tasking email. This is actually the outcome email where I indicated to you before that the winning side indeed was no, and the S&P was not over 2450. So we know the outcome. As a group manager, I put that in the system and sent out an email, and let's go to it. So let's actually do this together, because I want you to see this exactly how you will be doing it. So
Marty?
Yes.
This is Lynn. I think I don't think anybody is seeing the your screen.
Oh, why did you really? Oh, that is so
We just see
bad.
like APP webinar organizer Marty Rosenblatt.
Yes,
No, okay, great.
you guys waited way too long to tell me that. You see, that's what jet lag will do for you. So just let me quickly review with the screen. You should be seeing my screen now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you
Thank you
for telling me, and please, all of you in the future, you've got to be able to speak up sooner. Okay, so precognition begins with the feedback session. We discuss what we're going to be doing, and we're going to start, and that's what we'll be doing right now. For coordinate 370146, that was one that was done a little over a month ago, and the question was, will the S&P 500 index be over 2,450 on March 17th? So the prediction was a pass. The outcome was actually no, and now we're going to go get that associated PhotoSite target. So let's actually jump in right there. And so here is the feedback for this webinar group that was a month or so ago, and you can see the question. The event is here. And the answer, and you'll always get a link like this. So you just simply click that link, and then in our groups, each of you would put in your own name, but I'm sort of representing each of you on these training webinars, so I simply did this under my name. And so I just simply put in my name, and then you click here. One of the messages I hope you get from these classes is that this really is quite simple. The effort goes into doing the transcripts and the feedback sessions and the judging. And there it is. So I clicked on that, and here it is. The feedback target for 370146 came up right here. And I don't know if any of you did. I don't recognize any of these names as people who did it from a month ago, but that's fine. Had you had a transcript, you would have, and I'm going to show you some, you would now get out your transcript and you would now have the ability to look at this. Okay, so later we'll actually finish this off by putting text in here, which is saved. Everything is saved on our servers for you to learn from, not only your stats, but the comments that you make. So these comments are for your benefit. And then we'll hit submit, and that would formally end that prediction. But at this point, what we have here is the feedback target. And now let's see what we would want to do with that. So, okay, so let's get to that point. So here it is again. Now, one of the things which you should note is this was called PhotoSite B. There are always two choices in yes-no questions, right? It could be yes or it could be no. This particular PhotoSite was associated with what we call PhotoSite B, and it was associated with no. Now, it's very important to understand that that was done randomly by the computer. So the reason we're seeing this one now is that when the coordinate was chosen and the pictures were chosen, the computer said, hey, we're going to have PhotoSite B associated with no. PhotoSite A is going to be associated with yes. And you're going to see at feedback time whatever's associated with what actually happens. So in this case, it was no. You know what I just said, in a way you have to let it sink in, because that's all there is to ARV. Now I'm going to show it to you in other ways, but the key thing about ARV is that for a given coordinate, notice there are two possible targets, a PhotoSite A and a PhotoSite B. The computer randomly associates PhotoSite A with yes, PhotoSite B with no, or the other way around. PhotoSite A could have been no, and PhotoSite B could have been yes. For this particular coordinate, it was associated in the yes-no order for PhotoSite A and PhotoSite B. Now, one of the options in the WE program is to use a second coordinate. If we had used a second coordinate, this coordinate plus another one that would have been chosen randomly, we would have flipped these around so that the other picture, so in this case, this was yes and this was no. If we did a second coordinate, for that second coordinate, this would have been no and this would have been yes. And so for the second coordinate, you would actually get to see PhotoSite A. And that would have been, as it turns out, your target. And so you have two coordinates in that case with two different targets. So I often get asked, why do we use two? And it gives you two chances to get the right answer with the same pair of targets. It's actually, we think, a very wise way of doing it as opposed to using four targets. Okay, but in this case, For 370146, no turned out to be associated with PhotoSite B, and this is the target. So I'm going to explain this again with Precognition Begins here. If you think of time flowing backwards, what you can see is you've got the answer here. That's why it begins here. You know the answer. We know now that that's the target for PhotoSite B. We know that now. We have one target and one coordinate always, and we know what that target is. Well, earlier, associated with the analysis judging phase, which we're going to do later, but that's when you judge your remote viewing session. When you do that, they're actually now in linear time point of perspective, but remember we're going backwards, you now have two possible outcomes, and at this point you wouldn't know which one it is. So there are two possible outcomes, and each of those two outcomes, one's associated with yes, one's associated with no. You don't know which, only the computer knows. But that's why you have two pictures here, and you're judging based on the best matches, because the assumption is that you know the answer here, you send the information back here. And then the Q, describe and sketch your coordinate, your feedback target. That's ARV. Let's do some, okay? We have two examples I want to share with you. And this is the first one. We have this TAR confidence ranking scale, which may be some brand newbies here, and let me just go over it. The way you get a really good sense of it is by doing it and looking at it, and during feedback sessions, just reaffirming whether you think you did a good job. And we all get to the point where we're about the same within one or so. But this is Russell Targ's approach. 0 is no correspondence, 1 is little, 2 is kind of chance. I mean, if you just made up words and took a random picture, you did some squiggles on a piece of paper, there would probably be some correspondence. You know, if you said red and line and round, there might be something round in there, and red. So, but you didn't get any of the key elements in any really strong way. That's random. You get a sense of that after a while. 3, you're beginning now to think you might have made some psychic contact. You've got some correct and incorrect elements, and enough of the correct ones that you've made contact. But this is 3 we would call marginal. You're right on the fringe. So that's what a CR of 3 is. You said you got some, but you know, there's so much incorrect stuff that you're going to call it a 3. We take 3.5 to be wagerable. A 4 is strong psychic contact, good correspondence with several matchable elements, several, intermixed with some incorrect information. So these are the kind of words he put to it to try to quantify what you do. So 4, you just feel really comfortable that this was psychic information. You made a connection. The information that you got was really good. People often don't know if they should make it a 4 or a 3, and so 3.5s are okay, and that would be, you'd say, I'm willing to bet a few bucks on it. So that's the 3.5. 5 is now really excellent. It's still good correspondence, but now we've added these other key words: unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. Still some incorrect information, but you can now point to something which you think is as strong as these words: unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. Again, as much as he tried, he knows that there's still some ambiguity in these definitions. But by the time you get to a 5, you want to get close to where these matches are unambiguous, unique. And then 6, you start getting into what in the remote viewing world are called analytical overlays. You might name the function of the target. You've got all characteristics of 5, but in addition, you might get the function of the target, less incorrect information, and by the time you get to a 7, you might actually have named the target directly, and essentially no incorrect information is spot on. So that's the 0 to 7. So if we go back here, we can now see that he gave this a 6. So he is doing his personal remote viewing session, but it turns out we can do it. I'm sorry, he's doing his feedback session now. Let's imagine he's doing that, and let's just see if we can get a sense of what he might do and what you might do if you were in this situation. So John is not with us, but let's look at the transcript. The transcript itself was in the blue ink. The orange and green marks you see here were from his judging. So what we're recommending for judging is that you go through every element. That means every word, every sketch element. Often sketches have pieces to them, and you mark them up as either being more like being a match for A or a match for B. Okay, so for example, Rocky, and we can't see PhotoSite A, and I'm not going to show it to you. Total emphasis on, guess what? PhotoSite B. You're now doing feedback. John is thinking these kinds of things to himself. He's looking at the picture. Part of his intent is to share the information earlier. And he looks, yeah, okay, certainly rocky on planet Earth here. And dirt, yep, he marked those. He sees brown, white, green, so you can see all the marks he's got here for B. Like an aquarium, so a big aquarium, but he's saying, you know, and he's smiling to himself, oh yeah, that's a pretty big aquarium. And notice he's doing everything possible to make this picture real to him. Okay, you know, fun, aquarium, laugh. You do that sort of thing. You make this session a fun session. Now, he gave it a 6. It's real easy to do, and that's what we're doing. Movement from up to down, flowing. He got that as flowing. You know, we can see the hurricane here. He didn't mark, well, natural structure. In fact, that one, see, now he did this, but this may very well in his mind be a natural structure as well, which he wrote here. Another thing I'd like to point out, which John didn't do here explicitly, but notice now he might very well with the pencil trace over 370146 and say it out loud. When we did this, I asked everybody to say the coordinate out loud because it resonates in his body. He says it out loud now, 370146, resonating in his body, realizing that that's going to act as a kind of a beacon. You get it? We're really making this the most important session because it is. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. Natural structure, 370146. I would have asked him to write over it again. And it's not like you're remembering the numbers. It's like the motion. The body, precognition uses all the body's senses. It's kinesthetic. So as you move and write 370146, that's a unique set of micro movements, if you will, macro and micro movements, which designate this coordinate, which were sent back when he did this originally. And notice he does it multiple times, and this is what's called an ideogram for those of you who don't know that word. That's just like a little thing that starts it off, and you begin to then get information which you write down. Okay, like a fountain in water. Again, he's got the water. Oh boy, I got the idea of water all right. I might have been off about it being a fountain, but water certainly came through. And look here, like water, the water came through beautifully. A waterfall, fish tank, fountain. These I did label as AOLs. I named them a little high level, but nevertheless, boy, I'm really happy. They all certainly relate to the water in here, which is one of the major gestalts, major features of this picture. Sunny shore. Flowing again, rushing, movement, all of this. It's like I really was focused in on this hurricane, the dynamics of it, but also the clouds and everything. This is a snapshot clearly of a moving atmosphere over our Earth. Rounded objects, well, yeah, that's certainly rounded. A natural element, yeah, motion flowing. So these are the ones I marked. I am really feeling good about this one. I can see how, how well I did. So I'm quite happy with this. Now the other thing I ask people to do is how about adding something new now? Maybe on even a new sheet of paper or on this sheet of paper, do the kinds of stuff you did before. I mean, here, yes, you got a waterfall, but wouldn't you have been happier if you had just done a little circular kind of thing? You got the movement and everything, but wouldn't that have been great if I could have gotten the circle? So do that now, circle it. Some people print out the picture. But stay with it. Make it strong. And hey, even a little curve. Circle would have been good for this, but even a little curve. And how about the word big? I didn't really pick that this is big. We use the words big and small compared to normal human size. This is certainly big, so I'd write the word big on another sheet of paper or here. So this is the way you would want to do a feedback session. Really, really get into it. It is a full up session. The idea of starting with the coordinate, rewriting it over, or if you do it on your transcript, going over the letters again and just really getting into the motion, saying it out loud, getting into all the elements that matched again. Say, yeah, I think, you know what, I believe that is a 6. I have no problem with that, especially since he's remembering now, gee, there were a few things I didn't write down that fit this as well. Remember, this is a very personal kind of thing, and he can do that at feedback. You do whatever you want at feedback to emphasize this and share it. You get the sense of that? Okay, I hope so. Oh, I'm looking now at the chat box. I can see all of you were making your comments, but I didn't. I can't look at the chat box. It's on my other screen. So this would be an example of what John might have done for his feedback session. I do know that he actually starts with a new sheet of paper and puts the good stuff on it again, and then adds things pretty much like I indicated here. So, okay. Now, let's, I put this one here next because as good as John's was, if you recall, I said this ended off being a pass, and that's because there were, and I've marked in yellow here, all the ones that are over 3.5. And you can see Ramel, and we'll look at his next, he got a 4.5, which is also quite good, as you know. And Millie and John both had 3.5s, and also on, well, John got a 3.5 for the PhotoSite A match, which takes away, not much, just a little from the 6, the fact that they were both wagerable. But the reason we ended off passing was that there were two other ones here, other people's here, that were pretty strong. And frankly, John, I remember this session. In fact, a lot of the things you're seeing here come from the video, so I re-listened to pieces of it. John was quite negative about the matching. He went on and on how it was a bad target pair, and he seemed quite negative about it. And when we started talking about that and all his negativities, he said in view of getting this, he actually felt more comfortable with the pass than going with his. I do not know how he would feel now, but he'll get to see this. I know he'll do his feedback, as he always does, and I'll share that feedback link with everybody. But I would say when he does his feedback session, he should probably ignore all that and really get into all the good stuff, just like we did. Now let me show you one other one. Okay, so I hope it was obvious that these are the confidence rankings associated with PhotoSite A, where the computer had made this a yes, which did not happen, and PhotoSite B was associated randomly by the computer with no, which was correct. But everybody gets the correct feedback. So now let's look at someone else, and this is Ramel's case, right? So this is Ramel. He actually did the 4.5 for A, and so he would actually get what would be called a personal miss, because he predicted that it would be this and it wasn't. And let's see how he might go about this, okay? So I'm going to try to put myself into Ramel's position now. I'm seeing this feedback. I already know I got a miss from the outcome. I know that I predicted higher on PhotoSite A, and this is PhotoSite B. Now, what do I do? What do I do? Well, first thing I do is I take a really good look at this picture, even separate from my transcript, and I want to get into its gestalts and what's going on with that. And it's big, circular, water. Yes, I see that it's earth and all of that. And then I start looking at what I did with my A and Bs. Now, I probably can't help remembering the other photo, but I try actually not to. The way I would go about this is I would take a look at the Bs that I got. Okay, oh, hey, I got white. I'd give myself good credit for that. Yeah, black, but I'd probably say to myself, probably 90% of the pictures in the world have white and black in them. Blue, that's really good. And I didn't get a lot of other colors which were off. So I feel really good about my colors here. Oh, okay, really good. And emphasize that now. You're not going to change your transcript in any way, but you're setting up a protocol for future feedback sessions to help your future remote viewing sessions. So, oh my gosh, I really do feel good about that. What else did I get for Bs? Oh, look at this. I got a bunch over here on page 2. I actually got quite a few Bs. I'm looking at this now. Well, I gave it a 3.5. Okay. Far away, yeah. Modeled, yeah. Okay, I feel good about that. Oh, atmospheric, that's real good. That's real good. Far away, atmospheric, okay, yeah, I'm emphasizing that again, so I did pretty well on that stuff. That was good. That was good. And now, oh, look what I'm just noticing here. I've got 4 circles. Yeah, they're separated. that must have had something to do with A, but I don't care. But I didn't mark a B for that. How did I miss that? I mean, look, this geometrically it looks like a circle, but I know that this is a twirling circle. In fact, if I look carefully now, I can even see another circle in there and another circle in there. Why didn't I mark that as a B? Okay, I'll note that. Next time I'll try to do a bit better as a judge. But maybe I would have ranked this a bit higher, knowing that I missed that. I wonder if I missed anything else. Oh, look at all these brought. I don't know what this is, but those look like people to me, and I didn't give any B for people. Now I don't see people here, but maybe I was picking up, the 7 billion people on planet Earth, and I stopped after doing that. Thinking again out loud to himself, maybe in fact I missed that. Maybe my subconscious was trying to tell me that there really are a lot of people here. And interesting. Okay. Well, let's see, did I miss anything else? Downward falling and gradually rising up and abrupt. Oh no, that's his description. Okay, that's his description. Interesting. That's his description of the ideogram. However, that's also a pretty good description of a hurricane. Oh, interesting. Maybe this is also was also trying to tell me that. I don't know. I'll have to pay attention to that and see how that goes with other things. Okay, pull together sports. But notice I'm going over every single element and relating it to this picture, if I can, to emphasize this PhotoSite. I use the word picture, but it is a PhotoSite. There's a dynamic hurricane here. This is a snapshot, but I know that there's plenty of motion here. Okay, happy, excited, ecstatic. I don't know what this could be here. Maybe those are trees coming up from this part of the world. Wet. He got wet. Didn't mark a B here, even though there's wet there. Interesting. I wonder why I didn't do that. Because I wasn't getting the sense of so much wet, maybe, but maybe I should have paid more attention to that particular word, wet. Okay, so re-looking at this, I would say my B maybe should go up to at least a 4. I've got more stuff here, or maybe not, but nevertheless, I now have a really good fix on what this picture is about, and I'm going to now draw over and say out loud 370146 while I'm looking at the picture, while I'm remembering all the associations that I just did. Some people do that at the beginning, but always as they're doing it, they're looking at and getting a sense with all of their senses of the picture, of the PhotoSite. Okay, I wonder what that could be. Certainly the geometry of it is not fitting. Grids on a map, I don't know. Okay, and then if he did work on another session, he'd write end of session, just like you do here. This is a full-up session. As I think you probably know, I think it's the most important session to really pay attention to and set your intention and your expectation every time you do one to get better and better at entangling with, connecting with the remote viewing session. So that would be my instruction on that. Questions, comments before we go on to making a prediction. But it all begins with the feedback session, and that's what we just did 2 examples of, and I hope that motivates you to really get into your own feedback sessions. Okay, ready to move on. So, I know what I wanted to do. I want you to do this now. You get out, I want you to get out a blank sheet of paper right now and just take 1 minute and put the kind of words, kind of um, um, sketches that you would have done for that feedback target. Just an exercise for yourself. And tell me about it. In fact, if you can turn on your mics and say out loud the words you're doing, the sketches you're doing. I would actually feel that if we did that with the intention to help the viewers who did this, it could entangle with it as long as you did that number there as well. The 370146. Everything's entangled to everything else. Come on, talk to me. What kind of words would you have done there? This is like a list of potential words. Go ahead, turn on a mic. Lynn, yeah, go for it.
I've got white, blue, green, swirly, cold, unstoppable, USA, map, and geography.
Beautiful. A map is good. That would be a good high-level one. And what about, did you draw just a quick sketch which had, I don't know what, a sketch of the rough shape and something about the hurricane?
Yeah, doing that now.
Yeah, I would also do sketches. Most people seem to do a combination of sketches and words. It's just the way stuff comes up. But not all. Some focus more on one. Anybody else? Share something else with me. Henry, did you do anything? What did you put down on your piece of paper? Do you have a mic? Or you can put stuff in the chat box? Or Franklin, how about you? I see you use the chat box. This has got to become real for you guys. You have to, the other part of this we don't talk about too much is taking action and being true to kind of the things you believe and the discipline that you believe. And I think it's pretty clear that ARV and precognition begins with the feedback. Therefore, you should take action supporting that reality, that belief. And I'm trying to force you to even do that now, this is not an intellectual process. This is a hands-on process. Okay. Very good. Right. Notice we come up with words. Thank you, Franklin. Come up with words which tend to be in this list. This is something Daz Smith did several years ago. And these, I'm not going to read them all, but these are the kind of words that you can use to describe almost any photo site, at least a part of it. And there are other words which come up, and it's not like you can't use other words. You should use other words. But looking at these kind of words, which are very much like the ones that you did here as a subset for this particular target, this covers almost all targets. And I find the dimensions are one of the most important ones, because no matter what else you have in a picture, even the most boring pictures have shapes. Dimensions include the shapes between the colors, for example, oblong, looping. But that's why sketching becomes so important. You might just sort of get a strange shape that came maybe visually, or your body just wanted to make a strange shape. And it's amazing how often that'll be a dominant shape in the target. So this is an example, and if you send me an email and you'd like a copy of this, I'm happy to do it. But with these kind of words, you can describe really virtually any photo site. Now, the bottom line messages here are learn from your hits and mostly be happy. Really enjoy this process. If you're spending time, enjoy it. Don't you want to, when you go and look back at your journey, to really have as much fun associated with it as possible? And the feedback time, whether it's a hit or a miss, um, make it fun. That's part of your challenge, is to turn it into fun. Even if you got a miss, you can look at it and say, oh, look what my consciousness did there. Ramel did some of that. Oh, and oh yeah, hey, I did miss something like that. Gosh, I guess I'm a human being. But I'm learning from this and I'm getting better and better at it. And this comes in, how to learn isn't going to come from a book anymore. After you've done several of these, it comes from you. It's your communication channel with the deepest part of you, your deep subconscious that's connected to everything, past, present, and future. And then your intentions are getting more and more focused. And you can see where, yep, you got a bunch of stuff and you missed some stuff, but you're during the feedback session working with your subconscious to get better and better and to learn the subconscious's language, and it's trying to learn your conscious mind language. That's a pretty amazing challenge, actually, and a fun challenge. And ultimately, you are learning about yourself. And again, really, I just say mostly be happy. That's my recommendation. Okay. Let's do a change of pace. Okay, Evelyn, let's do a change of pace now, unless there are any other questions, comments. Let's do a new prediction. Now, just a reminder, binary ARV has these two sides. We call them side 1 and side 2. If we're doing financials, it'll be up, down, or down, up. And, when we say yes, no, or no, yes, it's just like up, down versus down, up. So it's, and the same thing when we make comparisons with PhotoSite A and B. Those stuff is always random. We can do sports, and we do sports, and all of these can be turned into yes, no questions. Here is where we are now in terms of what we've done. We started with the Hillary Clinton one. Here are the predictions. We have 3 hits. What we just did was finished off this S&P over 2450, which was a pass, and so in terms of the outcome, it goes down as a pass. But as I showed, we still do full-up feedback sessions to learn and enjoy, and the feedback sessions are always on the personal predictions, not the group predictions. What we have here are the group predictions. In fact, I should probably call that group prediction. But also in each of these, they're personal predictions. And so some of these are open. So far we have all hits, but I happen to know one of these is going to be a miss, because will either Kentucky or UCLA be the NCAA Men National Championship. And our CARV group, which is our sports group, are down to the Final 4, and neither UCLA or Kentucky are in there. So this is going to be a miss. And in fact, the next Wednesday, we'll do a feedback session on that and look at the personal. And I do believe there was someone who got a personal hit, but there were a few personal misses as well, enough that the group prediction was a yes, and this will be a miss. Okay, and then here is the prediction that we're about to do. Okay, so we're doing ARV, the group manager in or, this is stuff you could really do on your own if you want to pick pairs and things like that. But at some point in linear time, remember, it really begins with the feedback target, but at linear time, it begins with the question that's being asked. And in this case, it's will the SPY, and I'll tell you what that is, that's actually closely related to the Standard & Poor 500, daily price close above 240 during the period today through a month from now, April 29th. So this was a clear month period. And I tend to go for financials because, hey, look, precognition is real. We're the applied precognition project. One of the very practical applications has to do with financial movements. And I think it's the way that we can add our energy to the consciousness paradigm shift. So I do tend to go to the financial or the sports-like things where indeed you can wager. It's not essential. You can see here, French presidential election, Hillary Clinton, we can do all those sorts of things as well on the monthlies, and I'm always looking for suggestions for other things to do. Okay, so will the SPY close above 240 during the next month? Now, what is the SPY? They're called the spider. Very, very popular, lots and lots of volume in it. And what makes it most interesting is from a trading perspective, they have very active puts and calls. So this is where you can get the leverage. If you were just trading the SPY directly, yes, you can do things, over a month. It might move, a few percentage, but the options can move hundreds of percentage points over the same period. Also, it's much less expensive to trade. You can buy puts and calls and get in for a small amount of money. So anyway, it's one of the symbols, and I've had whole webinars on how to use options, which I will not get into here, but you can go back and look at previous classes where we talked about how to trade with options. Now, the SPY is basically 1/10, and they come very close to keeping their price at a level of 1/10 of the actual S&P 500. So if you look up the S&P 500 as it approaches, say, 2400, you'll see that SPY will be close to 240. In fact, guess what? I have plots here. I got these. I tend to use something called Interactive Brokers that does everything which is online, stocks, bonds, options, Forex, everything you can imagine. But you can get almost all the information you need right off the internet quite easily. This happens to come from financial.yahoo.com. Yahoo has a pretty good financial set of information and charts. So here's a chart for the Standard & Poor 500 index over from the year to date. So this is price. So this is up at 2,400. This is 2,300. So this is a 100-point change here, and this is year to date. So this was January, and this was yesterday. So this is time here. Each of these lines, and this is called a candle chart. They're also bar charts, but they all show the same thing. I don't know if you can see the line. You probably can't, but let's look at this red one. Coming out of the top here is a little thin line. At the top of that shows the high on this particular day, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days ago, 7 trading days ago. So it's got the high price based on the price scale. The low is below the red right here. The fact that this is red tells me this is a down day from the open, which is the top of the red line, is the opening price. And then on this day, it managed to get up a little bit higher, but then it went down, and the bottom of the red is the closing price, and then it went even lower than that. Midday, it went down to the bottom of the line there, so you can probably see my arrow, even though you can't see the line, but the bottom of the line is there. And so it tells you kind of the four key numbers. If you had to pick four key ones of price, it would be the high, the low, the opening price, and the closing price for each day. Now down here is the exact same thing for SPY. And guess what? This approached 2,400 but didn't make it. SPY approached a factor of 10 less, 240, and didn't quite make it. And here's the 230, which is 1/10 of the 2,300, and you can see it's got all the same characteristics. And as I said, they keep the prices very, very close. You know, not exact. In fact, I'm just looking at these three, which are these three. I mean, it captured the main motion, the big jump up, but you can see the opening and closing here is a little broader than the opening and closing here, but not by much. Certainly nothing particularly significant. They do a very good job, the people who run SPY, on buying and selling all the things which are in the index so that they keep it marked. So that's what SPY is. And we've now asked the question. Notice it came up. This was what was called the Trump rally. And it approached 240. Now it's coming down. And there's some people who think that was the end of it and it's going to keep going down. There are other people who think, oh, this is just a little reset and now it's going to go up and we're going to go up to who knows where. And so we've asked that question. Will this, during the next month, go over 240? And again, none of it matters. You know, the intellect, and that's why I always want to talk to the intellect. The intellect is a very important part of us. We need to balance that with our intuitive side, with our psychic side, but and that's why we explain all this. But from the standpoint of the precognition and answering that question, all that matters is describe and sketch your feedback target. And I think you get that. So when you're in the mode of doing ARV, you pretty much ignore all the intellectual fine details and you just get into how well did you describe and sketch your feedback target? Did you pick up the information properly? So describe and or sketch, there's your coordinate. You've seen this before, but now what I want to do is bring in a stronger way two new words. Intention and then expectation is coming up. Intention is behind all of this very directly. Expectation is something which you build as you do more and more of this, and you get more and more positive expectation. But your intention is to create your RV transcript, which is going to be a terrific match to what your PhotoSite target is at feedback time, the one you're going to see. I mean, that's pretty clear now. And that's kind of in you during when you set up your RV, you do cool down, you reset that, but it's so deep in you, you almost don't have to do anything. That's your intention. You cue, you describe and sketch your feedback target. During your feedback session, you're well aware that that's your intention, and you just keep working on improving the whole process, and that's the intention during your feedback session, is just keep learning and doing better and better. Now, yes, guess what? Your target is the PhotoSite that you see during your feedback session. No other PhotoSites, pictures matter, and if it crosses your mind that it does, you say, "Yep, there you are again." Yep, but that's irrelevant. What matters is, and please subconscious, you keep your focus on the feedback target. Expectation is the other key word, and it's different. Expectation is something which is so deep that you almost don't know it's there. I mean, I'm about to ask you a question. What's your expectation about the sun coming up tomorrow? You just expect it so deeply. You don't question it. You have a confidence. It's like that's just the way the universe works. Your expectation in our context is that you are indeed going to create an RV transcript for your particular coordinate that is a really, really good match to the feedback target for that coordinate. That expectation is something which you just want to work on. You know, the intention you work on and you try to clarify it from time to time, but it's actually easier, in my opinion, than building this deep expectation. And the expectation should, I think, include the fact that you're still human, but so you're not 100%, but that you're going to get better and better over time. That's the kind of expectation I believe you should do. And you're going to expect to be getting better and better by very consciously working with your feedback session in a way where it's going to improve your remote viewing transcripts in the future, which is going to just make it easier for you to then expect to continue to do better and better. So that's the kind of logic that at least I've used. Each of us is different. Each of us has our own way of looking at this universe of ours and the context of precognition, but do know that expectation is a very important part of it. Joe McMonagle, who I think all of you know, probably the best viewer out there, goes back to Stargate days, got a commendation from the U.S. government for his remote viewing work. And Ed May, who's a scientist that goes back as far as anybody, as far as Russ Targ and Hal Puthoff and those guys, and Ed took over the program at Stanford Research. This is what they said. What is clear, at least to those of us on our long-established team, is that intention, attention, and expectation play a very important role in the success of both application and research of remote viewing. So this is just what it is, and hopefully now that you're sensitized to all this, you can pay attention. The one we haven't talked about, but it's obvious that in everything we do at every step, you want to be aware of what's going on, and where is that awareness focused? On you, on your consciousness, on, oh, isn't that interesting that my subconscious gave me this? Oh, look how my communication channel is working. It's that kind of attention that you do. You're watching yourself. It's wonderful. I mean, you're learning about the deepest part of yourself by paying attention to what goes on during your ARVing, during your precognition. And of course, all of this is is tied to the task that you're doing here. Okay, we're getting ready to do it. You should get out a sheet of paper. This is an example which both newbies and OBs use something like this. Often they'll maybe make up their own. I can send you a link so you can print this out. I'm going to go over it now for newbies because it basically is an outline of how you go about during the remote viewing step, which is what we're going to do now. In your remote viewing session, you end off with the transcript. Now, we start with name, date, and time, and a coordinate. We've talked before about different kinds of beacons. Here, what I'd like as a beacon is to say the coordinate out loud, which we haven't got yet. We're about to get that. The coordinate, you'll be saying that out loud as a beacon, and when you write it, you'll be very aware of the sensations, how it feels on the paper, and things of that sort. And then on your transcript, notice I have a line here. So all of that kind of goes still in an intellectual state. We're going to do something that's called cool down, which gets you ready to receive your information. I'll be talking about in a minute, but I just want to go and give you a sense of what your remote viewing transcript will be. It'll start with this coordinate again, and then you saw some examples before of ideograms, maybe they're pictograms, but like a squiggle. And then what usually comes up first are what are called gestalts. In that earlier picture, it might have been things like water, big, earth, big picture things. The first thing that hits you when you see the feedback target, because that's the things which tend to come through first during your remote viewing session. And then there's always a place for sketches. And then you saw those descriptor words. So you might write the categories. So here they're written for you, but your subconscious will give you information in all these categories. And often I like to think of these as going down deep into your subconscious. You get information, you come up, you put it on a sheet of paper, and then you go down again, but you might go down and ask for textures. I personally always like to ask for shapes and dimensions first, but you might ask for textures, colors, smells, taste, dimensions, sounds, dynamics, analytical overlays, that sort of thing. So when you get done, that's going to be your transcript. The remote viewing session is really one of listening and witnessing. How do I start? How do I get my coordinate, you ask? Well, let's do it. Again, a general manager sends out an email which looks like this. This is the email that I did earlier. In fact, I just did it this morning. And it's going to webinar workshop members. Now, right now, I'm the only member, but I'm representing all of you. In all the other we groups, each person would receive this. Every group member would receive this. And it will then notice transcripts due during the class. That's what we're going to do now. Here's the event. Will the SPY be over 240? I give the start time, which was today, but I also put that it goes through the 29th, and the transcripts are due today. Now, when you click this, and I'm about to do that now, what I want to be clear is that each of you would get your own unique coordinate, which would be associated with your own unique target. So there's no looking at anybody else's brain. There's only looking at your own feedback target. So I'm about to click this now, just like you would do, and a page like this comes up. In fact, this is the page that comes up. Okay, I'm just making it bigger so you can see. You would put in your email address, but I'm representing all of you here, so I put in mine. Webinar workshop was highlighted, and here's where there's an opportunity to do 2 coordinates. I still recommend that for personal predictions, but a lot of people just use 1, and there's no problem with that. You know, they do 1 and plan on spending a lot of time with 1 feedback target and 1 remote viewing session, or however. But that's what we'll do today, is 1 coordinate, and then you click this. Okay, so we now have the coordinate. So on the top of what's going to be your transcript, put 979427. And as you're writing it even up there, you're now really beginning your work. You say it out loud, get the unique feeling of 979427. And after you do your transcript, you then will upload it to the server, and I will be doing that for all of us in a moment. So the next step is to do your remote viewing session. And what I want to do is do with you a cool down, which starts with the intellectual, which is what I'm going to talk about now, because I believe this is what is really going on. The idea of a quantum foam is, I believe, now this isn't what these guys are saying, so I just want to be clear that this is the way I believe consciousness works, is at the level of the very, lots of varies, small, there's something which is called either zero-point energy, zero-point field. He calls it the quantum foam, and I kind of like that. And he introduced that by saying nothing is really something. At the very small level, so you go down to any point in your body, and you will get down to a quantum foam. I believe that that quantum foam is the interface between the physical world, between everything going on in your body, and the non-physical world, which is where consciousness has its source, if you will. So somehow the communication channel goes through this quantum foam into your body. Okay? He talks about getting very, very large, and in places between where galaxies, we used to think there was nothing. I mean, literally, that was the definition of a pure vacuum, is there'd be nothing out there. Well, there isn't. You go out to where there's nothing, just like if you go to any point in your body and you get really small, there is quantum mechanical activity. That's the quantum foam. And we're talking dimensions which have no meaning to us. Many of you know a little about math. 10 to the minus 35 is the small level. But it's filled with what they call virtual particles, particles, antiparticles coming into existence, releasing energy and going back to nothing. It's a huge source of energy, but it tends to be so uniform that we're oblivious to it. However, it's through there that the physical world, in fact, exists. Neutrinos, the smallest mass thing, this is 10 to the minus 35. Neutrinos are 10 to the minus 24. But DNA Notice every point and every one of your DNA chromosomes, okay, your DNA has trillions of all of these kinds of points in them with the quantum foam bubbling around. But you as a person kind of have a vibration that's special to you through your DNA. And I think that's part of this whole communication channel that keeps you to you. You know how many cells you have with DNA? Like 30 trillion cells, and trillions and trillions and trillions of in each of these cells connect up here. And so I'm saying all of this, and I'm going on, and I don't really mean to be too intellectual, except I want you now, when we get quiet, to get into the fact that this information is coming in to you through your DNA into your nervous system, affecting all of your senses and giving you the information which you then put down on your remote viewing transcript. And all you do is witness that marvelous process. So now's a time where we quiet our mind. Joe McMonagle considers this to be 75% of the discipline, because you're opening yourself up to receiving this information, paying attention what's coming from your sub to your conscious mind, getting rid of all the day-to-day stuff. All that's like noise. Okay, so here's your cue. Describe and sketch your 979427 feedback target. Actually, the way I'd like you to do this is we're going to take 10 minutes, and I have a link here for you. For those of you that would like to use a link where this fellow starts out intellectually just talking a little bit about the quantum foam, it's like a minute and a half, which you could fast forward to if you want, and then after that there is hemisync, just some nice background quiet music that is really designed to get you into a receiving mode for remote viewing. So with that, let me put this link in the chat box if you want to use it. I wish I could do it here, but I can't. Okay. And okay, so let's begin. In 10 minutes, I will bring you, a minute before this ends, there's something that says it quietly, and I'll bring you back. So you now have 10 minutes.
Marty, do we have coordinates already?
Yes. 979427.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I'm joined late.
Yeah, hi, John. That's okay. 979427.
You follow that idea a little further, you'll find that through these bits that nothing is really something. I'll wait while you process that last sentence. Nothing is really something. So let's see what that means. We'll start by taking this box, which is filled with air. The next step is to take all the air out of it, shield it so there are no external energy fields seeping into it. There's nothing inside. Surely it's empty, right? Let's start zooming in. Maestro, can you zoom a bit? Nope, not seeing anything. Maybe a little more? This isn't getting us anywhere. Time to pull out the big guns. Maestro, you do the quantum zooming. The image you're seeing gives you an idea of the smallest quantum reality. The flickering colors represent the constant creation and destruction of matter. Electrons, antineutrons, quarks, and isomers. They are created from nothing and disappear back into nothing. we can see that when you look at what is going on at the smallest, most quantum of scales, empty space is actually extremely busy. Scientists have a name for these effervescent subatomic objects. They're called virtual particles. There are lots of other ways to visualize this, but one way is to think of the foam on a particularly busy root beer. If you look closely, you can see bubbles appearing and disappearing in an ever-changing way. For this reason, some scientists call these virtual particles quantum foam.
First, let go of your physical senses, your body, and turn inward.
Less than a minute. Okay. Let's come back to our normal states. Write end or EOS for end of session on your transcript. Stretch a little. I hope that felt good. And the next step now is for us to do judging. And as we've discussed, since we're doing binary with yes, no, there'll be two pictures, which are the possible correct answer, which will turn out to be your feedback target. And that's the one you were describing. And it's during analysis judging that you make that determination by giving confidence rankings, which we've also discussed. So you have one transcript, two possible targets. We do not know what those are yet, but we will shortly. When you do your judging, just remember that this is a process of improving your communication channel. And so the skeptic here, and there's usually a little bit of a skeptic inside each of us, I suppose. He might give a challenge to the remote viewer, and the remote viewer might say it's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange, and then rather than being positive and supportive, the old skeptic is going to think, you little fraud, that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. And so these are kind of obvious where you would feel really good how well you did. But there are going to be times where you have to make judgments. Is that good? Is that not good? And you need to be honest with yourself because you're just trying to learn. You're just trying to get better and better. And just improve your precognitive abilities. Okay. Why did I do that? Are you still here? Okay, so let's do it. Now, remember the last thing we had was not this one, this one. So this is where we've got our coordinate, and you did your transcript. The next step would be, if you're on your own in one of our groups, is to upload it to the server in one of the We groups, and you would take your transcript, you would get it to your computer. Most people in this day and age are taking pictures with their smartphones, but you can people using scanners, and then you would find it like I'm about to do here. So you get a copy of your transcript here, I have something I call dummy, but you would put your real transcript up there and simply put it in. It becomes in this box. And now as soon as I click the submit button, we're going to see the two possible feedback targets. So there'll be two of them, PhotoSite A and PhotoSite B, just as we previously discussed. Okay. So here we go. Now we talked about the TARG scale, the 0 to 7. And on your transcript now, as you saw in the two previous examples, and I see that John is here, the John Allen that you see is the John who got the 6 previously. And remember how he put an A and a B next to them. So that's just what I want you now to do on your transcript. And ultimately, you're going to come up with a confidence ranking between 0 and 7, and put that into the chat box. All you have to do is put A or A and then a number, comma B, and then your confidence ranking. I'm going to, and if you recall, the 3.5 was the first wagerable, a 4 was good psychic contact, a 5 was very good. For 5, you use unambiguous, unique, matchable elements, and then a 6 and 7 gets even higher with AOLs and naming. I don't know what that means, Evelyn. Is there anything we need to do? I don't, Evelyn, either talk to me or put it, I don't know what you mean. I'm getting sound from another session. Are you not hearing me? Are you hearing, are you hearing me now? Or maybe what you're saying is there's something else. Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, Evelyn, you might want to log out and come back in again. The link on the chat. Oh, maybe you turned it on and didn't turn it off and it went to the next one. Just turn off, go to your place where that was playing and it automatically went to the next one. So you just have to turn off that and you'll be fine, Evelyn. That's what it is. Thank you, Henry. Go to your browser. It's on your browser, Evelyn. Okay, and once you finish doing the judging, if you can, I'd love you to attach the email, attach in an email to me, Marty at p-i-a.com, a copy of your transcript, and then we can discuss it. So just email it as an attachment or directly as a copy, however works best for you. The attachment usually works best. Go into your browser, Evelyn. Can you do an Alt-Tab? On the bottom, there should be, are you Mac or Microsoft? Windows. Okay, on the bottom, you should see a symbol for the browser, either like an E or a Google. I don't know what browser you're using. Or you can use the Alt-Tab trick. Anyway, I'm sorry, but that's clearly the problem. You need to figure out how to turn that off. It doesn't stop. Okay. Thank you, Judy. Okay, and then send along your transcripts if you can. In fact, if you're not finished judging, continue doing your judging, and I think you've got a good enough fix on this that you can judge. Okay, so let's go here, and let me see. Very good. So, okay, John, you came in first. Let's do yours first. But everybody do it totally independently. It's got nothing to do with what anybody else does. This is all personal precognition in a group environment. So let me put you there. And I think I need to make this a bit smaller. Okay. So here we see the two PhotoSite choices we were talking about on the left, and now we have John's transcript on the right. Okay, Judy is the last one I have. Okay, well, there's some people who have not given any, and that's fine. Okay, let me do it this way. Okay. So I don't know if you didn't do sessions or whatever. Okay, so let's take a look now at what John did here. Again, this has now become a pretty standard approach, especially for the webinars, because it makes it really clear what the people are thinking. And John, why don't you turn on your mic and tell us, because you know, sometimes you add comments which aren't on the transcript.
Okay, I'd say I just made a mistake because I forgot to mark the colors first for the.
You forgot to do what?
I actually swapped it around by accident. So.
Oh, I see that. Okay, you want A to
Yeah.
be 5 though, right?
No, I want B to be 5. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay, that's what I put here because that's what you wrote, but oh.
Yeah, so swap the
Okay.
scores around. I actually, way I have my split screen, I was looking at the water one, and I thought that was A for a moment. So it's going to be a little messed up. Sorry.
Okay, but the marks for A are.
They should go towards B. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wait. I do want to be clear here. What you're saying is the green is really B,
Correct.
even the way you marked it, not just the summary.
Right.
Okay, you know what? There's a way I can mark the screen. Here, wait.
I can just, if you want to go I can send another one in so it's less confusing
No,
later.
that's okay. Let me see if I can mark the screen here. No. Oh yeah, okay, I can. So this is B. And this is really, okay, we understand. Okay, go ahead. Describe it in that fashion now. Maybe
Okay.
refer to,
Yeah, this one was a little difficult to judge because they both have subjects in them. But when I was doing the ideograms over here, that was the clear gestalt, which clearly site B is just subjects, and site A has a natural structure in there as well, which I didn't really pick up. And the first impression I got on my first sheet was like water, or I got sort of a water flow, and that first I started with textures first, and I got slick, wet, and I'm like, oh, okay. So that lends itself towards B as well.
right.
And I got most of the colors. Now, when I hit, it's very common for...
Oh, I lost you, John. John, you went off. Or did I go off? John, I can no longer hear you.
recurring. So those
Okay,
are the
wait.
ones that I hit.
We just missed a minute of you. You went off air somehow.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, so I guess it's the network. I was saying I got slick and wet
right.
first, my initial perception, and that's clearly a B thing. And I don't know if you heard me at first. I had initial difficulty because my gestalts and my ideograms were both subjects, and there's subjects in both of those photos. But
Right, but one is rather minor. I mean, come on, we know the
right.
overmatches. But okay, anyway, go ahead. And then you
Yes,
got water.
Site A is definitely a natural structure and a subject, and Site B is clearly just a subject. So
right.
So for textures, the first thing I got in textures, because I go down in order from left down, and then I go through it again. But I got slick and wet, and then with the colors, blue and white are pretty common to get. Green, but when I hit orange, orange was a surprising perception. So I put a dash next to it for me to really pay attention to that.
I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then I got brown after that, which is a fairly common color, but throughout the whole session, I kept getting brown hair. So I put a dash next to that one later on for me to pay attention to. And then sunlight, I guess sun is in both of them. Nature is in both. Dimensions, I was getting slope or slopey, curvy surfaces, which I guess could apply towards B, but I didn't get many of the dimensions for Site B. They're more of a Site A thing, is what I judged it on.
Right.
And then in the data line in the center, I've got smooth motion. On my second sheet, I have sort of a very smooth motion, watery lines that I've drew on there, and that's where smooth motion comes from, and organized, purposeful motion, like rhythmic. And then in my AOLs, I've got animal. Well, I knew it was a subject, but sometimes I have a hard time differentiating between humans and animals.
Mm-hmm.
But something alive, and then fish. And I put it in AOL as an artifact because I haven't done an RV session in quite some time, and one of the last ones I did was a fish. So I'm like, oh crap, is this from my last session? Or so I just put it over there, and then.
Okay, but fish is good for this one, obviously.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So just make sure that we swap those scores around.
Thank you. Yes, on the spreadsheet, I've got the CR for B being a 5, and that indeed is what you want here. That's clear. Okay, very good. Thank you. And your explanations are so helpful to others too, because the subtleties of what you put down and some uncertainties in the connection with potentially past, that's what comes up for whatever reason, and you shared that, and that's good because it'll come up with other people as well. So I appreciate that, John. Thank you. Okay, let's go back here. So let's go to Lynn. And I should be able to move her there and bring this up. Oop, why did I lose? It moved. Okay, Lynn, do you have a mic? Because I do think it's good to have you go over it because, there are always some extra comments.
Yeah, and I have the opposite of, seems like the group.
Right.
Let's see, the first.
And don't let that bother you. You got what you got, so.
Yeah. One of the first impressions I got was like a blue rectangle, like a sky blue rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
So I marked that as an A. And then all the other colors, it's kind of hard because I think a lot of colors are in every photo. So unless it's a real, like stands out, then I didn't mark any.
Right.
But that sky blue rectangle was an immediate impression.
Now, let me just ask, and now I'm learning about you here a little bit. The rectangle in your mind, was it a blue rectangle or what do you see significant? I understand the blue, but is the rectangle of any significance?
Well, I guess it was just the shape of the PhotoSite A rectangle.
On the top, on the, okay, they're rectangles.
As opposed to being a horizontally oriented.
And definitely curvature stuff. Okay, I got it. Okay, good.
And
so
it was like a cyan blue, like a sky blue, so I put down there.
Yeah, right here.
So I guess to start the ideogram, it felt really kind of like light and whatever, but I just kept getting, when I went back to the number, I kept getting the just a really heavy, hard sense.
Okay.
So under textures, I got rocky and hard.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. I had a hard time getting any kind of pictures or shapes.
Well, you got these.
Yeah, but that's kind of like B. I kind of seems like.
And it is, and and I would say that's definitely B, and that's good. And you marked it as such.
Whatever it was, it seemed to really dominate the picture frame. I mean, that might have been the dimensions. It just seemed really large in relation to what I was seeing, which is almost like B, but I don't know. It seemed outdoors, under my gesalts, outdoors, heavy, large, immovable, sturdy.
Mm-hmm. Large and right.
And I guess
geometry.
Also under, I probably didn't categorize all these correctly, but like under aesthetic impact, I got like tourist attraction.
Well, which is pretty good. I mean, I'd say this is a tourist attraction.
Yeah, and under, let's see, AOLs, I didn't get the movement of PhotoSite B, I guess.
Right. Frog.
And then under my AOLs, I had rock formation.
Mm-hmm.
What about your ideogram?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was saying, when I did the ideogram, it felt kind of really like light and moving. But then when I looked at, when I kept going back to cue the number in my head, it just had this really heavy, heavy, big, large um, sense.
Yeah.
Which feels more like B to me actually
Right.
than A being heavy and big and large and not moving. But
No, this one, you know, looks watery, light and watery, which goes along with this. But even if you put a B there, I mean, you do have a lot of A. Rocky, hard, outdoors, large, heavy, and solid. I mean, I see why you went with A, and I can't quarrel with that. Whether it's up to a 3.5, yeah, I would say, I personally could not quarrel with that. And what did you give
I guess
B? B, you gave a
I gave it
1.
that because I had the rock formation in the AOL.
Right.
But also, I had pool table in AOL, and I was going to ask if
Huh.
you ever find that the subconscious gives you, might give you an image, but it contains a word from one of the pictures or something.
Yeah, I've seen that. You know, by the time you got to pool table, enough of you did this that pool made no sense, but maybe pool table did to your subconscious. We're speculating, but it's just worth noting. This is why when you do these over and over, you know, if you see something like this 10 times and one of the words is right on, you know, you might look at the words individually. Generally, something like pool table would be looked at as one thing. You know, you got a pool table. But
Yeah.
I have seen cases where, you know, one of the words was like definitely appropriate. Okay, my judgment is that the 3.5 makes sense. I don't know about the 1. I might actually want, just because this is so wave-like, you know, the waves here. And
Yeah.
if this did feel light and it looks watery, you know, I might have at least gone up to 2 for B.
Okay.
That just, but as I say, John, yeah, what do you think?
Oh, I was just going to say, ideograms are kind of personal, but also they're all at the same time kind of universal. Just I would definitely pay attention if you see that ideogram again. Save your old sessions and go back and see if that ideogram comes up with water again or something heavy, because you can translate it however you want. Just those are something worth paying attention to and kind of creating a solid language from if you can.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn, thank you. Okay, and okay. Well, Henry, I think Henry left. Wait.
I'm still here.
Oh, are you? Okay, good. Then let's open this up here. And let's do this again. Okay, and you gave, okay, you gave A a 1 and B a 2. So,
Yeah, well, I think I'm also not very confident in the confidence grading yet, but
right.
yeah, like the first gentleman, upon I don't know, you call it an advanced visual, but I had this image of a horse or a subject strongly with like with brown hair and doing an activity like I thought it was eating.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And so that's what the horse in parentheses is like an AOL, I guess.
Right.
And lower down there to the left, brown, natural, and life. I think I should have marked maybe B for that instead of A. But also, I had the.
Well, no, I can see the brown together, brown, natural, and life go over here. I don't know how they came in. If you do it a little differently if they were ranked separately, but I understand. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
And yeah, and then this idea of hair, I don't know if I even wrote, yeah, I wrote down hair at the top, fur, so
What about
that was
activity?
sort of interesting.
What about gentle activity? You didn't give anything for that.
Well, I was thinking,
That's a B.
yeah, yeah, I think I'm perhaps, I don't know how, my understanding of the image is it's, you know, like extreme activity or like racing.
Okay, that's
maybe
true.
that's just in this.
No, I understand what you're saying. The gentle, it looks gentle there, but you're right. It's extreme. She's racing, and maybe this is more like gentle activity.
She could be
So,
practicing too. You never know.
Yeah, I don't. So, but essentially, it came down to a subject,
Yeah.
what I thought was eating or doing a process of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, I get it. And the judging of this one of the reasons being there are people here, but with what you put down, I can't disagree. Hard. You know, you gave yourself, so you came down a 1 on A. Yeah, hard to tell. But, you know,
Well,
I claim when you don't have anything just really clear, it gets hard to distinguish between a 1 and a 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't feel it was, I mean, I felt a more affinity with B, but nothing extremely clear.
Right.
I don't.
But you've got enough A in here, I think, you know, I think, again, and this is only me, I probably, if I gave B a 2, I'd probably give A a 2 as well. And maybe give B, just because of what you said at the beginning, where it's subject like maybe a 2.5. But you can't go very high with this one, Henry, and that's the right thing to do. You know, everybody does. Yeah. So that's fine. So thank you very much for that.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to make one comment on that, Marty. If it, you know, sometimes we get data that's similar to what we think. Like she was breathing. That could have been what he picked up when he said eating. You know, the mouth thing.
That's possible. That's possible. And to feel more comfortable with that, you know, you'd almost need more data at the judging perspective. You know what I mean? At feedback time, you might be able to make that with more confidence. Okay, let's see what I can do with this. Let me use my snipping tool. Oh no, that won't rotate. Wait, I can get this. Use a snag. Turn that around. Okay. And then I can rotate. Okay, so there it is. Let me see if I can make that not small. Okay, how do I move that around? I may have to do it this way. I want to get this so we can look at it so you can describe it here. Okay, I don't know if you can all read it. I can read it, but you can. Okay, Judy, why don't you now? There we go. And let me see what you gave it. A 3 and a 4. So A was a 3 and B was a 4. So why don't you tell us how you did that? Do you have a mic?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I hear you fine.
Oh, Perfect. Okay, great. So I'm fairly new at this, and I haven't done one of these for a while, and I haven't done much with judging. But in looking at this, I think I would amend A and B to probably around 2. 2 for A, and B would be 2.5. So I'll go through what I felt and what I saw.
Oh, wait a second. Then I've got the wrong Judy. Hold on.
No, oh no, that's me. That's me. Originally I had 3 for A and
4 for B.
Yes, and then going through this and listening to the other discussions, I think I'm going to.
I see. Okay.
I don't have the ranking information right in front of me as to what the numbers stood for, but I think I was a little too generous on these. But anyway, with when I first started the session, I felt in my stomach just a mass of flutters like butterflies. I gave that a B. The red, nothing seems to correlate except for the person's lips, but I didn't mark anything for that. I next saw a shooting upward. It was like a red graph, and it was just this propelling, this like movement shooting upward. I didn't write down the movement part, but like shooting upward. And I put that down for both, for B primarily, A question mark with that because it kind of moves upward, but it doesn't have that momentum. I also felt weak, hollow, smelled twigs. I gave that an A. Brittle, A. Parched, A. Reflective, I put that down as B because of the sheen from the water.
Yes,
washing over the person. And I also saw a mirror reflection, like on a surface. So I also marked that as B. Tumultuous was the feel that I had. I put that down as B. I heard ringing and shouting and movement. And I didn't judge the ringing part, but the shouting and the movement, I don't see that in the picture, but I'm assuming that that would be in the periphery of the,
oh, absolutely,
at the scene. And I heard the words false start, and I didn't assign anything to that. I also, the words that came to me were rigid. I gave that A. Coated, I put that down as A and B, thinking that maybe A has dust over it, the dirt and maybe ash and things. I didn't know about the ash just in reading your write-up though. So I put that down for both A and B. I also heard the word barn, and I didn't judge either of those. And then the next thing was I felt a very cold exterior, and I marked it incorrectly here, cold exterior and hot core. So then I tried to sketch that, but it was just the reverse. It's what the words, follow the words on that, and I assigned that to B. And I also, the words were fear and glee, I put that down as B. Surprise, B, and I also counted that as with A, maybe someone being surprised if they see that, but I don't really think A counts for that.
right.
Upended, I heard that, I put that down as A. Slide, I put that down as A and B, thinking perhaps if someone were trying to climb the structure, in your description after you show the picture, if they're trying to climb it, maybe they are sliding back. And then also B, maybe someone just likes the water sliding over. It just seemed like it had that would fit. Fork, and I saw the image with the fork, and I looked at the B, which has the trees to the left of the projection. So I looked at that. There's some indentations there. That's really trying to force it, perhaps. Bliss is A, and then maybe B. As the person that gets in the zone, they feel like they're really doing well. I stretch that. I heard the word Shazam. That doesn't really apply, but put that down. And then also, grainy. That seems to fit with A. Salt, that fits with B, and sand, A. And then also the colors white and cream, which seem to fit with B. Pickles, and sour, that seems to, that's stretching it really, but maybe the taste in the water, but that's really stretching it. And thrill is B. So it seems like B is more, but I wouldn't give it a 4. I think in thinking about it, it'd be maybe more of like a 2.5.
No. I mean, maybe a 3.5. You've got a lot of B. Also, you said false start, which you didn't count, and this is an Olympic event.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, false start seems just right. I don't have any problem with the 4 or reducing it to a 3.5, but I don't know. You got an awful lot of B's there, a lot more B's than A's.
What would you do with the A? Do you think maybe a 2 for an A?
I don't know. You gave it a 3, and I would have a hard time quarreling with that. John, do you have it? Excuse me. Any other feelings about this, or anybody else?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I have to kind of take it where I can't really read any of it. It's too small.
It's a little hard, but I'm seeing something here that says movement, right? Is that movement right there?
Oh, we're on the,
I just circled it. Can you see my red circle here?
Oh, yes.
Is
Movement. And so that would be, yeah, and for movement, I put that down for B, movement.
Yeah. Oh, and that's on the right side. Yeah. You've got reflective. No, I think I can't quarrel with your judgment. For B, I think it's 4. For A, I don't know. I don't quite see it quite as high maybe as you do, but
So maybe a 2 for an
A 2.5 for A, I would think. Okay,
Yeah,
but
she also mentioned like shouting and things like that.
Yeah, that was really good for B. So I think your B was quite good. And again, I should say for PhotoSites, by the way, the definition of a PhotoSite includes not only what is directly in the picture, but what can be immediately inferred with a high probability. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, the shouting. We know there's shouting going on there. You know, there's motion. In a snapshot, you wouldn't say motion, but you know there was motion there. Okay, let's make the prediction. So here we are. The way everybody does these things a little different, but I'm the one who's got the responsibility of making the group prediction, so I'll tell you the way. I don't only do it one way. They're like considerations, and so I'll just talk out loud here. But the first thing I always like to do is to mark the ones which are wagerable. So it's this one. So that's wagerable. That's wagerable. See, that one is wagerable. That was when we were just talking about. You'd think I would learn there. And that's sort of it. Lynn's 3.5 seemed okay. I can't remember if I think this one I felt should go up to a 2. So John, of course, the highest ones are a 5 and a 4. I would say I'm prepared to predict, and you see why. Would you do anything? You know, maybe you would say there's only this is strongly leaning towards B, isn't it? Not only based on looking at these numbers, which are the bottom line, but we went through the transcripts and the 4 and 5 seem quite legitimate to me. And the 3.5 is just wagerable. So I would say prediction is for PhotoSite B. Does that sound reasonable to everybody else?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. So then we need to go back to this page. And that was, let's see, I lost this again. Let's just see. Okay, so let's make it a 4.5. So it was a 4 and a 5. And this one we had one 3.5, but no other support. It's going to give the same prediction if I make it a 3.5 or a 3, but I'll leave it as a 3.5. I think that was okay. And now we'll say this is webinar class. How many actual, might as well record how many predictions we had. Where's my Excel? I'll get it from down here. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4 predictions. Okay. 4 predictions. Too strong for PhotoSite B. Okay, so notice at this point we don't even know what is associated with PhotoSite A or PhotoSite B, but when I submit this, it will then, remember the computer was the one that had it, so the computer now will tell us whether it's a yes or no, hopefully. So I'm now going to click this, again from the perspective of you doing this in your group, that's just what you have to do, is come up with the confidence rankings for each of these. If there's 2 coordinates, the second coordinate would be here. But now we hit submit. And the personal prediction is yes. Interesting. So the prediction here is yes, that we're going to go above 240 within the next month. And that's just a touch higher than the highest it's been. So that'll be very interesting to see. From the wagering standpoint, this indicates that the current price, in fact, and let's go back. It's almost 11:30. Okay, let me just do this quickly and then I'll finish. But from the standpoint of the charts we had earlier, here we go. Here's SPY, here's 240. This is what was called the Trump rally. It went down. We're now predicting it's going to go over 240. So you could buy a call pretty cheaply up at, say, the 238s or even the 240s, but the 238s, and when it gets up to 240, notice we didn't say it was going to close above 240 by the end. The thing was that it was going to close at least one day between now and a month from now. And so you could buy a put. If it gets up to over 240, you could sell it, or then you can make a judgment about what to do. But we're indicating that this is now the price somehow the next month is going to manage to get over 240. And that gives you the ability to wager. Okay, oh, that was very interesting. Thank you all. And I wanted to finish this off with just a couple of other. Scientific American had a whole thing on our unconscious mind, what we call the subconscious mind, what we call everything but what you have right now in your conscious moment. So past, present, future, everything is somehow you can get to it through your conscious mind. And I kind of like this idea of what's down in this unconscious mind are your beliefs, ideas, emotions, and then they bubble up, if you will, into actions and thoughts and feelings. This is what you experience, but it all comes down in this complicated interactive way. Intentions are down here. Expectations are down here. So I wanted to make that point to you. And in this article, the guy who did this, I love this, he said, we actually have no idea of how conscious experience arises from this blob of matter that weighs 3 pounds. It's really still very much a mystery. And that is certainly true. You heard me give a little bit about my theory about the quantum foam being the source of all of this. But you know, if consciousness is the fundamental, all we can do is examine it from different aspects, but we're never going to come up with a more fundamental model. If consciousness is fundamental, you take it as the fundamental and then learn about it based on what it does and how it plays out. Now, precognition seems to come from outside physical space and time, whatever that means. But what it means is it's like, how do we get this information from the future? It's being shared with us in some fashion, and it's almost like whatever that mechanism is like outside of space and time. And again, that's that quantum foam idea, which is the most fundamental. It is everywhere, right? These points that I talked about are everywhere in space and time. It's hard to come up with anything else, frankly, that is like that no matter where you go, no matter when you go, at every point in space, you get small enough, you're going to find quantum foam. And the quantum foam has the ability to communicate with itself throughout space and time. So you can see my hypothesis, and it seems to fit the facts, but it's just a loose hypothesis. Now, the other thing where the quantum foam seems so physics and based and hard to get around, I claim what all of that is doing in us as conscious human beings is allowing our future, wiser, loving future selves to communicate with our younger now selves. So the now is always a function of what's happened in the past and what has happened, in a sense, in the future. And what's wonderful about ARV is precognition begins with the feedback target that you will see in the future. And so it's clear that the future is, in fact, communicating with you in the present. That is such a powerful insight that's just such a powerful insight. But not to get just intellectually. That's why it's so beautiful that all of you here and others are taking action, because that's what gets it in the gut. And you're showing that you get it in your gut by doing it. All of this leads, and I have given talks, and I will give more on health. Frankly, I think this is very closely linked to self-healing and self-health and remaining healthy by connecting up with healthy future states and having them pass back. And then wealth is part of this. I'm hoping wealth, which includes sharing with others. The word wealth and wheel goes back a long way. But this idea of wagering wisely if you're going to wager, and since precognition is real and you know it, there's no rush. Grow rich slowly. Okay, that's my formal presentation, what I hope to share with you, and you were a major part of this. I love that you did your sessions, and if there are any comments, questions, ask away. Okay. Yep. Okay, thank you, Judy. And I'm looking in the chat box. Thank you all for doing this. As you've probably picked up, I do enjoy this, have a passion for it, and I couldn't do it if it wasn't for people like you who come and join these classes. So with that, I will end this session, and do keep precogging.